Thank you for that, break. Now, and then why is that? A child does not have so much, has not seen so much or even learned so much. It's barely lived 14 years. And as a matter of fact, those 14 years have been 14 years of a controlled education process. He has never chosen what to learn on his own, what to read, what to see on his own. So he does not have data in his head of what the imagination of a 40 years old man looks like. So he can barely paint a picture. Same with you. Same with everybody, every person that try to do the ideation process. Ideation process works mostly, largely on what you've seen before. That's why exposure is very powerful. What you never had experienced with, what you've never seen before, there's very high possibilities you can come up with anything around that. If you have never seen anything before, if you have never had a picture of it before, if you have never interacted with it before, you can barely come up with anything in that particular or specific field. Do you understand? So let's say now that you've never seen a bottled water being made anywhere before. Let's say it has never come across. You've never seen a bottled water before. Oh, as a matter of fact, back in 1970s or thereabouts, in Nigeria, before the advent of bottled water, mostly we buy water, or the water corporation brings water into everybody's compound. That was what we're used to, right? Now, and so nobody would have even thought of it as a venture to make bottled water. Why? It does not exist in their space of sight. That is why, now, here's one of the biggest evil that happens to us as human. If you are in a particular vicinity for as long as possible, for forever, the possibilities available to you are those things you have seen. Here's the thing. Because you've not seen beyond that environment, your imagination, your creativity will only surround those possibilities from that environment alone. You cannot create a new picture. And then if the biggest person in that environment, the wealthiest or whatsoever, only has 2 plots of land and then has a farm on it or has a bungalow, and then if that is what the person has, your wildest, your biggest imagination of what is possible will be that person's reality. You can barely is the chance. It's like 2% in 100% that somebody can come up with something new, entirely new. Of course, we have seen the cases of, like, the man that developed 300 use case of peanuts now. His name was Washington or thereabouts. One of the things he said, oh, God gave him the idea. That part stands, but I'm talking about the larger population of people that, might not be privileged to get the idea directly from God. Now, let's talk about the fact that as humans, how can you get the ideas? How can you get the imagination? Because ideation, comes up with ideas, imagination itself. I've told you before, right? Now, that imagination, being able to see, is a function of your source. There has to be a source. And that source can be in form of learning, in form of seeing, which all, are inside your exposure level. So now, exposure itself, as a matter of fact, comes from, first, what you see, what you interact with. Do you understand? What you're taught, what you read. That is why a large percentage of time, let me tell you something, one of the greatest secrets of what anybody becomes in life from history that we have seen is a function of two things. One of two things, which is still one itself. Function of two things. Number one, what books they read and who they meet. Do you understand? So if you can travel to the United States or to United Kingdom to see what they do and how they do, or to Thailand or to Japan to see how they live. If you read a book from Japan or from Japanese or about Japan, like the book Ikigai, you understand how Japanese live or Japanese live. Do you understand what they are all about? And here's the thing. The human brain itself can create pictures from things as simple as letters. That's why you imagine. The human brain naturally can create pictures. So if you read something, when you're reading, oftentimes when you're reading, you're creating pictures in your head, right? That's why exposure can go as far as what you read. Now, I said it initially that two major functions that determine what anybody becomes in life eventually. One, the books they read and the people they meet. And then actually at the same time, we can do away with one of the two. One of the two, but not the two at the same time. We can do away with let's say, people they meet. Let's say you never meet anybody. We've seen the stories of people that became, okay, let's say, one of the biggest clergymen, in life. One, they are often called God's generals. We've seen that cases before. And then that person was never in the four walls of a formal education. But one way or the other, the person got a Bible and started reading, creating pictures of the possibilities available to him as a man. Also, if somebody can do this before, has done this before, then I can do it. That's where everything starts from. That's why we often say it, that you'll never be bigger than the things you know. Now, that knowing is a function of things you either read or have seen or have learned from somebody. Do you understand? So now, since seeing can be expensive, what you see, physically see with your eyes, can be very expensive, because if you have to see how America works right now, or Americans live, or how Japanese live, or how the British live, now you have to fly there to go see, right? Physically, if you want to see it, interact one-on-one. That is one of the most expensive part of exposure. Do you understand? That one can be very expensive, right? But if you don't have that expenses, another thing you can do is actually read about them. Then when you read about them, your minds create picture. Now, let me tell you something. The more the data you have, those pictures, those learnings, those readings form the data points that you have, upon which you can build your imagination, your picture of your realities. Do you get it? Are you getting this? This is step by step. Now, data source. Data source comes from exposure. Exposure comes from either you're reading, or either you're sightseeing, okay? Or either you're learning from somebody directly, telling you, oh, this is what is my town. This is what is in my country. This is how we do it. Now, the person is telling you word of mouth. Do you understand? Or you read it yourself. Because now, the simplest and more accessible way of gathering data for your brain to be able to use for imagination is reading. More accessible, cheapest, because you can find PDFs online, you can find books lying around somewhere. People even buy books that they don't read. You can pick it up and go read it. That's the cheapest. And that alone can give you 90% and over of the results you require. And why is that important? Because you need to form a picture. A picture. Now, one of the hardest things in African countries to do is because one of the hardest things that makes it very hard for them to picture themselves participating in global affairs, you understand, actively participating, contributing, is because they never have a good data source in their minds to create a picture on which they can participate. Now, if you don't know how the entire countries of the world participate in global affairs, you can barely create a picture of how you want to participate. And that's the function of history. History and consistent studying of, how is Singapore participating in the entire global affairs? Do you understand? What is Singapore giving? What is America giving? What is the Great Britain giving? What is Thailand giving? What is China giving? Do you understand? How are they giving it? How are they contributing? It's when you then have all of this knowledge that you can then picture and create, this is how Nigeria can participate. Do you understand? Now, that is extremely important. Now, don't forget, we're actually still on ideation. Okay? Now, I bet we all got that. So I've said that now, ideation is a full function. Ideation is a full function of imagination. Imagination is a full function of exposure. You cannot imagine what you have not seen before. The chances are very rare. You can, most of the times when you dream, I've often said that dream, from what I've seen, is a function of your subconscious mind. There's the conscious mind, then there's the subconscious mind. Most of the things that we do, involuntary actions, are a function of our subconscious mind. Now, your subconscious mind is what powers your habits. Oh, did I really do that? Oh, I did it. Now, you didn't think of it, right? but your subconscious mind has registered it as a thing you have to do. Now, that is why excellence itself, if it becomes an habit, can become a thing that just comes easy for you. If productivity becomes an habit, if making money becomes an habit, if you understand how to make money, if it becomes an habit, it just becomes a thing that you do without having to think so hard about it. Yes, that's why some people cannot stop making money for life. Why? They've done it over and over again that it's become an habit for them, a habit for them that every time they touch a thing, they've gotten the Midas touch of turning anything to gold. So you give the person a bottle of water, just alone, and you say, can you build an empire from just one bottle of water? And you say, oh, why not? Effortlessly, and the person turns a bottle of water into an empire. Do you understand? So I was reading something about is it Eze? This guy, really forgotten his name, and he said it was in Ghana, and then Ghana didn't have La Casera in the Ashanti region where he was. Then he came to Lagos, Apapa, and then spoke to one of the managers there, the major manager. I was able to secure a deal to bring La Casera into Ashanti region of Ghana way back in 17, 20 years ago. Now, think about that. It's first a function of the fact that it's become an habit for him to run business, to do business. And he was very young, and he's still very young. Is the husband of Otedola's, Temi Otedola. I've forgotten his name. Mr. Easy, thank you very much. Now, it's become a culture for him and a habit for him to create wealth from anything. And as a matter of fact, if you go check, he might not have placed in money. That's why money is the last thing on your list that you really need to get anything done in life. Money itself is a function of actions, the right actions. Is a reward system itself. Do you understand? And if we go deep dive on how money works itself, it's an exchange means, especially the currencies. Do you understand? Now, so it's like somebody trying to get the results without putting the work. That's how looking for money looks like. You're chasing something that is chasing somebody else. So you would never meet it because you keep on going in circles. Do you understand? But you can be doing the very right things, which if you understand how it works, and money keeps pursuing you. Like him now sealing that deal now, when I saw the warehouse where it was using to bring, it was a whole lot, thousands of La Casera packs brought into, and that alone, when he sells it, because now, that's been several years ago, the guy is a really wealthy young man right now. Do you understand? Now, by the time he sells that, it then converts to the results that somebody else is searching around for. And it keeps going on and on like that. Now, that is actually the work part of this entire thing. Now, you've gotten that. Now, materialization. Now, this is one of the most important parts. Now, one of the biggest superpowers that we have, I've said it in his imagination, but it's much more in bringing things from nothing to something. Now, that's where people say, when I spark my finger and then money comes out. Yes, that's how it works. Sparking your finger from nothing, in nothing, sparking it out of, bringing money out of thin air. That's what we call it. Now, this is how to bring money out of thin air. Idealization, imagination of it, then documentation. Because when you're idealizing it, it doesn't exist anywhere. It's not written anywhere. The moment you write it down, you have substantiated what you saw. And that's powerful. How can somebody see a picture and it's in a book? Where is it coming from? In here, from his mind, from that part of him that you cannot see, is consciousness. And this is one of the biggest power of any successful person. As a matter of fact, look at these light bulbs that are here now. Now, somebody saw it in his consciousness, in his imagination, and materialized it, and that person became powerful. And as a matter of fact, the person was actually already powerful when the person first saw it, but became more powerful when the person wrote it down. Now, let me tell you something. One of the hardest things for humans to do is documentation. Because documentation is not an involuntary action. It's a voluntary one. Do you understand? Documentation is not an involuntary action. It's a very voluntary one. And it is hard for people to accomplish that. Do you understand? Now, documentation is so hard on its own. Now, ideation is hard. Yesterday we're trying yesterday we're trying to divide ideation, materialization, and possession into a category of 100%. And we're trying to put it on 33.33% each. Do you understand? Now, each of these carries the same weight. The same weight. And here's another beautiful thing. If you combine two of this in the right order, you can produce the best result. Best result ever. And then we're not talking about results in your locality alone again right now. We're talking about global participation, global influence. Do you understand? And why is global influence important? Actually, why is it not? I wrote something on the private channel this morning, which was the fact that the neighboring country does not even know you exist. Neighboring country is so far. Neighboring city does not know you exist. Barely few persons know you actually exist. So if you think about it holistically, do you really exist? Of course you are alive. Do you understand? But think about it. Think about it very well. Shouldn't you, with all that you have, your potential and everything, be more than just your family room space? No, come on, think about it. With all the lives that you have, with all the time at your disposal, I mean, shouldn't somebody in the West African countries know that you actually do exist and that you actually do matter? That is where global influence comes in. Because think of it, it's not enough to just be, just be influential in your family space. I mean, that's so small. That's fine. They will know you, but the person outside does not know you. So, I mean, think of then what is the worthiness of the life you have in itself? Do you get that? Do you understand? So that means you know in yourself that, oh, there's so much. Okay, for a very good example now, if an average human is placed on oxygen, you understand, per day, it's tens of thousands in Nigeria. If the average human is placed on oxygen for an entire year, you can guess how much that is going to compound into, right? Now, that tells you how expensive it is to maintain the average human. So if you were paying for average oxygen, you're going to be paying hundreds of millions. Am I right? Now, you're going to pay hundreds of millions. So that means if you were to pay for your oxygen for your entire life, that oxygen is separate. If you were to pay for the use of your arm, your right hand, then the left hand, then the left leg, let's say it's a pay-as-you-go. On a pay-as-you-go basis, it gives you the picture of the value and the worth of one human. The value and the worth of one human then would be in the hundreds of billions of dollars if you calculate it. Because if you're paying 1,000 naira per hour to use your right hand, then you have to pay for it. The day you don't have that money, we just remove one and then put it somewhere else. Now, you can imagine how expensive a human being is. Now, with all of that resources, with all of that value that you have now, you are expending that entire value on just your family, in your family room. Let's not say just your family, but rather in your family room. Think about that. What a waste of resources. What a waste of... Whoever is spending on you daily to keep you alive is probably wasting resources. Am I right? Think about it. It can't just be for you to be born, grow and die. As a matter of fact, everything involved in that circle is very important. Because there's a part of this entire thing that puts down, which is what to do every day. There's a part of what everybody does every day. It's also very, very important for you to participate in what everybody does every day. What everybody expects every day. It's also very important for you to actually participate in that. Yes, very, very important. If everybody goes to school, if school is very important, it's very important for you to actually participate in that. Everybody raises a family. There's a kind of normal trajectory every humans must follow, right? You grow up, you go to school, right? Then you get to a stage, you work. You work for a pay, you work for money, because you need the money to exchange to live, right? Now, Then there's the part of you raising a family. Now, not to be biased, but it's just the normal way humans have to live. Raising a family is very important. Why? Because we have to keep occupying the hut. You understand? We have to keep putting people so that by the time we go, somebody else is there. You understand? To maintain this place, just for think about it in that holistic view. We give birth so that somebody else can be there to maintain the things, not even our things, the things on earth, plant the flowers, get the trees to be there, keep the animals in good shape, so that in 10 years, 100 years, this entire earth does not get unoccupied. Do you understand? Of course, you can imagine what happens to a house which is unoccupied. It shrinks over time and then collapses. Good. That's something that can happen to the entire earth if we're not here. Now, those things are actually very, 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 very important. The entire movement and trajectory of the entire life. Do you understand? You have to participate in it. You have to completely participate in this. But now, what makes you different is something. It's participating in those entire trajectory of human endeavors. Growing up, going to school, working, raising a family, then dying. What makes it different is number one, exceptionalism of living that life on your own terms. Not everybody, get this right, over 70% of the human population does not live on their terms. Do you understand? I want a very big house to live in, and a big house is 90 million. But I don't have it. So I go to the government-provided housing, government housings, and I have to live in a house with shared toilet. Now, that's not living by my terms. Do you understand? This is where freedom comes in and all of that. Do you understand? What makes you then different from the entire population of people is the exceptionalism of being able to live on your own terms, on your own standards. Yes, so when you start working, can you work by your own terms? Can you work on your own terms? Can you work on your own standards? What are your standards? Your standards might be, I just want to work 10 days in a month. Okay, and for that 10 days in a month, this is how much I want to get paid for that 10 days in a month. Now, you will notice that actually brings a natural joy for every person that's living by their own terms. They kind of like have this happiness. But a person that is not living under their own terms, let's say a person there are people that are willingly going for a 9 to 5. They love it. It's their terms. And they have charged them what they want. And they won't grumble a single time. But there are people that are actually forced to live by 9 to 5. Do you understand? Because on their own terms, they can't afford to pay what the 9 to 5 will pay them. So they have to live by the terms. Then they are sad and depressed. These are all humans' emotions, which do exist, and it is normal, right? But most times, we often want to be happy, want to be free. Whatever, if at all we'll be depressed or be sad, it should be a conscious effort. Do you understand? I'm sad because I actually chose to be sad. Do you understand? Just to be remorseful. There's something that we call being sober. Not drinking. You understand? Then you consciously choose to be sober. It's a whole different ball game. Do we understand that? Now, let's trace back a little bit. So we're talking about the fact that participating, do you understand? It's normal. That's why when you understand this now, you will not want to run away from one country to the other. Rather, you will want to live. And if living involves you going on sightseeing experience, on tourism to another country, then you enjoy it. Instead of you pressurizing yourself to go in search of opportunities in another place. Because actually, opportunities are not location bound or restricted. If you understand how opportunities work, you can produce it in any location. As a matter of fact, when humans are every human is always looking for the better option. And if the better option is with you in the desert, they will come there. So the entire United Arab Emirates is in the desert, is in a arid land. But now, investors are flying all the way from US to go to that desert land, to go look for their support, to go make friends with them. People are going there on sightseeing experiences, Dubai. And those lands, as a matter of fact, were deserts. Right? They were sands. But sands that somebody else has built value on. Do you understand? Now, if you've gotten now that we're still on ideation, right, and imagination, and then at the same time, I've already, covered a couple of things about what you should be doing daily. Now, what should I be doing daily? What's it all about? Do what everybody is doing first. Don't swim against that tide. Oh, everybody's going to school. I don't want to go. No, you will struggle that way. Oh, everybody's getting married. Do I have to get married? Don't struggle with it. Try and understand the timing. And one of the ways to measure the timing is age. Oh, where does age become important? Where does age not? Age is important because there's something called uh, uh, mortality expectation of humans. At what age we expect average Nigerian to die? 70, right? In other countries like the blue zones, average person is expected to die at 100. Like in Japan, in some villages in Japan, they don't die in less than 100, less than 99. I mean, the youngest amidst them doing his birthday is 98. Young man. Do you understand? Now get this very right. Now, that's why age is important. So that you're able to then count the amount of times you're living. Now, one of the ways to then ensure that you're not struggling with that time is, number one, simplest way is list out all normal human activities. What does humans do at what particular age? For women, for example now, there's a particular age for menopause, right? So you know that in the window of menopause, certain opportunities of procreation are open to you. After that, it's impossible. Now, a person that didn't maximize the opportunity of the years before menopause and wants to give birth after menopause will naturally be depressed and then struggle, right? Will naturally. But those troubles are not necessary if you work within the time frame provided. From age 0 to 25, you're expected to be learning. You're probably reading something, learning something, going to school. Most likely you graduate at 21. Do you understand? If you do a little bit of masters and a little bit of philosophy, 25 in a very normal, human society. 25. Do we understand that? Now, 25 to 45, you're working. For women, 25 to 35, you're working and at the same time, you're trying to raise a family. Men can always start at 45. Do you understand? That is why I don't understand the struggle with humans trying to compare men and women. There's no point in that. We're psychologically different. We're physically different. Do you understand? Biologically different. Do you understand? So there's no point mixing both together. Everybody should just face their own businesses and get things done. Understand it. As a matter of fact, those who argue about these things more are not knowledgeable, if you check. They're not well studied. They're not well studied because when you study this thing, you understand the fact that the entire Earth exists, the entire planet here is sustainable based on our understanding of different biological factors. If we remove those biological factors, there's going to be a lot of commotion, chaos, and destruction. All right, good. Now, you should never be confused about what to do daily again from now on. I've said it, number one thing is do the very things everybody do. Do you understand? Do the very things everybody do at their different ages, at those different windows. Now, at least be aware, then choose by a choice to do it or never to do it. Now, yes, one of the things, you don't know that you really have a choice until you, let me use the word, are empowered with knowledge. You don't really have a choice if you never know in the first place. All right? I'll take a break. Thank you.